Hello, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and person who is addressing the topic of monogamy and ethics this evening. I hope to have some additional participants in the conversation, but at the moment I am joined by a famous person observer, which is always nice to be observed. Makes things real, as they say in the land of quantum mechanics. The name of this observer is Mahogany. And Mahogany is observing me talk about monogamy. So, monogamy. I won't have sex with anybody else. In part one of this conversation with myself, I talked about the question of the emotional affair, whether somebody can have an affair without actually touching somebody else. And I included not really. In the second question, I asked, can a relationship survive cheating? And this is a very triggery subject. I'm not one who likes to use in seriousness the word trigger, but having been someone who's been on the wrong side of an affair in a marriage, not my most recent one, but the previous one, I know that can be extraordinarily painful. And if you're going through that, I know that it sucks ass. It does. It sucks all kinds of ass. And there's no getting out of it. There's no thinking your way through it. There's no solvency. Which brings us to the question at hand, which is, can a relationship survive that? Well, my take on that is probably no. But in order for there to be any chance of it, the offending party, number one, it would have to be like a one-time drunken thing, I think. Number two, it would probably need to involve the offending party feeling, really understanding the scope of the damage done, and really kind of like subjecting themselves to a lot of self-denunciation. Because I think ultimately it's an issue of justice. If the relationship's going to survive, there needs to be some measure of justice in place that addresses the unfairness in a way that redeems the person who is the offending party in the eyes of the person offended upon. And that kind of betrayal is not easy to adjudicate, to make right. So, and that's not really what adjudicate means. But sort of, that's the point of it, you know? So, that's my thoughts on that. I guess if I were to argue the other side, I would say something along the lines of the cheating is a symptom of something wrong with the relationship. I don't like those kind of narratives at all, because they absolve one party from wrongdoing and make it a systemic thing. I don't like that. I want there to be a clear wrongdoer, and I want both parties to be in agreement about that, and I want that to be the primary issue. Like if in fact we're talking about a marriage or something that's experienced a betrayal of that sort, then in my mind, the only way that thing resolves at all is via a determination of justice. Like, you were in the wrong. You did this thing. That was awful. You shouldn't have done that. And then be like, okay, well, how do we make up for it? How is it going to be even? How are we ever going to be even? Given the scope of what happened here, how are we ever going to be even? To me, that's the core question. Can you find an answer to that question? I don't know. I think that having the other party cheat on the other party isn't going to do any good. I don't think you can get even like that and have the marriage survive. The first person still did the worst thing. It doesn't, it doesn't fix it. It doesn't make it even. It just robs the victim of their moral high ground. That's all. So I guess that's about all I have to say about this topic. I don't think a marriage can really survive. I've seen a marriage survive, but I don't think it ought to have. So, but that's just my opinion. It's not my marriage I'm talking about, so what do I know? And from our studios here in Temple City, host Eric spreading his opinion around about marriage, cheating, and stuff like that in part 2 of the Monogamy and Ethics series. I'll be trying part 3, still trying to get somebody else up here in the mix of the conversation, adding some opinions other than my own, as yet unsuccessfully. But you know what they say, quitters never prosper, or something like that. So I'll wait a little while before I quit. We'll make at least part 3.